That's my personal LinkedIn profile. Okay, this is what my peers are posting around, beautiful stuff. So you see the LinkedIn that I use the way that I see it. Okay. Now, before I kind of drill into the details, maybe I should start one step back, go back forward in time and explain something that I hear sometimes as feedback about my courses and what I'm currently working on. Like I told you, I'm a user assistance developer at a pretty large software development company, one of the largest software development companies in the world. So, very good place to work at. I work at SAP. In addition to that, I've been one of the people who created TCOM in Bulgaria and established it as a local community for technical communicators. I have been developing courses for probably more than 5 years now. I have taught those classes in at least 3 universities as part of their curriculum or technical writing, or my own entire curriculum solely on technical writing. And usually this is how I start my sessions, my classes, where I explain, what a great career path I had so far and what my journey looked like. But one thing I want to share you is that it was not always like that. I've been in the technical communications field now for more than 20 years, but it's not like I became a superstar on day one or even on day two or day three. I've started my career path when I was a student, and I started as a junior software developer at the time. But my biggest problem was that I was finding this job boring. Probably I was not that serious type of a person at the time. I was more spending time enjoying myself, going out with friends, having fun. And I was not thinking about job, career, or any of those things. And few years later, when the crisis began, one of the many crises that each of us experienced through the years, just like now, everybody say that the whole world is entering a new recession, right? So people are being laid off, and the situation is not very good, especially for young people who are just getting started on the job and they hear how everyone is just being fired. And so, what are their chances to get a job, right? And around that time, I was again in the exact same situation. A person who did not care too much about work, having lots of fun, and suddenly I found myself on the short list of people who were supposed to leave the company. At the time, it came as a big shock to me. I did not know what to do. I was kind of looking at, what are the reasons for that? Am I not doing my job well? And how things are going to work out for me, right? So it was not fun. It was a very, very unpleasant period in my time. And around this moment, I had to give up on the work that I was doing, and I had to start from scratch in the technical communications field. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that to let you know that there are very, very rare cases in which somebody just made a career from day one. And making a career is a journey, it's a process. You start somewhere, you will go through ups and downs. It will be difficult or unpleasant at times. It will be fun and exciting and good at other times. It goes up and down. But when I kind of went through this period with the layoffs and trying to start a new job in new team, I found myself in the field of technical communications. I started off as a technical writer at the time. My biggest problem at that moment was that this profession was never established in the country where I live. There are plenty of countries in the world where technical writing is nothing new. It's a well-known profession. And there are plenty of countries in this world where nobody has ever heard about the profession of technical writer. And I was exactly in my country where nobody knew even what is a technical writer. We've had some internal hands-on training provided by our colleagues, our peers from the company who acquired us, who had experience. But the majority of the work was hands-on. We had to learn on the job. We were learning as we go. And there was no one to tell us how to do things in the right way, how to avoid the pitfalls of technical communication. And fast forward several years later, now knowing much more about what is expected of me as technical writer, how to write software documentation, I found ourselves kind of after a long period after the crisis, you go in an up trend, and we were hiring more and more technical writers. And I found myself in the position of having to onboard those people and literally teach them what technical writing really stands for. In addition to that, I also had the chance to start speaking to younger people than myself who also wanted to become technical writers, but always had this challenge, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to get started. And because I had exactly the same problem when I was starting, and I remember how I felt frustrated and alone when I was about to be laid off and didn't know where to go, didn't know how to switch into my career, I found that for myself, the part of the reasons, maybe the main purpose why I've created those courses was exactly to help those people who want to become technical writers really start their job in our field. Because you're all smart people, intelligent people, you deserve nice work like technical communications field offers. And it's a great career path. And many of us enjoy being in the technical communications field. And I want to give you this chance and help you get on this track. Because when I had to do that, I had to do it on myself, on my own, did not have the support. I didn't have anyone to walk me through this journey and make it easier for me. So I know how difficult it may be without any guidance. And the way that I measure success for my courses is based on your feedback. I'm always very happy when one of my students comes back to me after weeks, months, even years after the course and says, Jordan, I started my first job as technical writer because of your courses, or, I got promoted because of your courses and what you told me there. This is what makes me passionate about technical communications field. And that's the reason why I want you to know how to approach this journey, how to be the best at your application, and then moving into this field as technical communicators. No matter which aspect of the job you want to be a part of, you always just have to start first on the job. Now, how can you get started? Well, let's start with the obvious question. If I want to become a technical writer, how and where do I search for jobs? Somebody needs to ask for technical writers and technical writing jobs. My preferences go usually to LinkedIn. I know that there are plenty of search engines out there. If you have a friend in a company who is looking for technical writing professionals, even better, go ahead, speak to them. get invited to the job interview. But if I had to search for technical writing job today, my starting point, my preference would be for LinkedIn. Again, why do I choose LinkedIn? Because the other search engines usually are not fine-tuned for what we need in the IT industry. They are either too generic or kind of the job advertisements there are for completely strange profiles from strange companies. I have found the best job offers here usually on LinkedIn. You can just go here to the jobs tab, where you will already begin to see particular offerings if you have searched for technical writing job. And once you're on the jobs, you go here to the search and you can just type technical writer as the term that you are looking for. The other field is that shows up when you type is where exactly do you want to search for it. So for example, I'm located in Bulgaria. So I search for Bulgaria. I can narrow down even to cities, but let's stay generic to the country. So the kind of combination I'm looking for is technical writer, and then the country or region where I would like to find my next job. Then you just trigger the search, and this is how you get the current list of job postings that talk about technical writers. You can do the same for your country. Let's say if you're located in Spain, you can just change the location and you will see 240 job postings in Spain. Let's take a look at the situation in France. 1,380 job postings in France. Probably that would be good. Germany. Let's see how it's there. Oh, nearly 3,000, 2.5 thousand results. Okay. So first of all, what does it mean to you? It means that yes, you have some good chances, right? Because there is a lot of interest. Why you should not be scared by the current crisis? Because the technical writing skill set is kind of very narrow and specialized. Okay, so the competition there, in order for somebody to compete with you for a technical writing job, they must have went through quite a lot of preparation, learn to write technical writing, learn to write software documentation, learn API documentation, learn different languages. Most common language for writing software documentation at present is still English, but maybe you want also some local language. That's also perfectly fine. Depending on where you live, the requirements would be different. But my point is that it's not that easy to just get started and write some documentation as a technical writer. So writing is simple and easy. This is what I always say. But being a technical writer requires special skills, knowledge, skill set. Okay. And now that you're part of this program, these courses, this means that you are getting ready for that and you will have the eye for the details. And this way we'll be better prepared to become a technical writer. That's the first thing I would like to tell you to kind of encourage you in your kind of job search for technical communication skills. Now, the second thing that I want to encourage you, and I especially say that to our women, ladies looking at the video, because I know that statistics says that men do not have that problem too much. Very often, women tend to not apply for a job if they do not find themselves fully 100% qualified comparing with the job description. I would say that's a mistake. If you find a nice looking job description, which kind of meets your expectations, then you are missing, let's say, one or two elements of it. It's still worth to apply for this position. What is the worst thing that can happen? You will not be selected. Okay, big deal. Don't be scared to apply for a job that you find interesting, appealing, and relevant for you, even if there is something you don't know. One of the things I always like to tell my students is that in practical terms, there is no way that you know absolutely everything out there, especially for the software development industry. The technologies change so fast that you're either doing your job or you're learning the new technology. So which of these are you really doing? You can't always know everything. You need to invest time and energy to learn the new technology, the new programming language, the new platform out there, the new tools out there. By the time you're finished with this learning, they are changed. So chances are that the person who posted the job posting is already aware that people who apply probably will not know everything. And probably there is not a perfect match. Okay. So if you're missing, let's say, knowledge in, let's say, Postman, like one of the tools, but you have like knowledge for the rest of the tools described in the job posting, still go ahead and apply. The worst thing that can happen are two things. You either will be rejected because you don't know Postman, or you will have to sit down and learn Postman before your job interview. Or on the job, of course. So what's the problem? There's no really problem with just learning a new tool, new skill set. You just show in your resume, in your application, that you are willing to learn. Because believe me, like I said, based on the job profiles and the reason why I said for a technical writer, you will have less competition. The reason is that there are tons of people out there who are not ready to learn, who are not willing to continue to learn new things, technologies, and skill, which means that because you're not one of those people, but you're ready to learn, which this puts you in a better position. So say it. I'm open to learning new technologies, new skills, new programming languages, tools, and infrastructure that you are using in your great company. Just say it. That would make an impression. Again, worst case scenario, they say, okay, no, we have a better profile. Good. So you just move forward. Okay, so you see now how I search for technical writing job, and I chose in this case for the US. Let's take a look at what a company like Google is searching for. I have not prepared anything beforehand. I'm kind of randomly opening here the job postings just to demonstrate to you that right now we are at the middle of December 2022. These are the actual job posting for some companies. Let's see what are the current skills that those companies are looking for. And of course, let's look at how they phrase it. Okay, so first of all, looking at the job salary, you decide whether this looks good, okay to you or not. You look at the size of the company, some company called Google. Maybe it's a good place to work, I don't know. And you get an overview of this particular company. So the location is in Seattle, okay. If you're located in the States, maybe that's a good place to live and you are interested into that. Let's take a look at the requirements. First of all, bachelor degrees in relevant field or equivalent practical experience. What does it mean? You either have studied technical communications in one of the universities that offer such form of training, or you have the hands-on practical experience. Remember how I became technical writer? It was based on practical experience. And any courses out there that can teach you solid knowledge of technical communications, technical writing. So they would accept applicants with this kind of skill set. Like our TC Lock program, obviously it falls here. It's in a relevant field, degree in a relevant field. Once you're through with your TC-Walk Masters, you will have exactly this relevant field experience. Excellent. Now, 3 years of experience as information architect, content strategist, 2 years of technical writing experience. Now, we talked about information architecture in my course on how to write software documentation just briefly, as the experience of knowing about end users, knowing about harmonization of content, structuring, organizing information in the best possible way, and content strategies that would be looking also at the variants types of information you can offer. If you have ever structured information in a particular way, then you have some relevant experience of this nature that could be applicable. Here, obviously, they have quite high expectations. 3 years of experience could be a lot, but you need to know exactly what type of experience they are after. It could be something specific like data information architect, website information architect, so on and so forth. So you need to ask this during the interviews. And 2 years of technical writing experience. Now, I don't want to criticize Google, but how can you have been writing for 2 years and structuring information for 3 years? I cannot say. Usually you start with the writing and then you become information architect as you kind of become more mature. So for me, it's a bit odd to see those requirements. Still, their job posting, for me, that's a bit in reverse order. Usually you would have more years of writing experience and then you become information architect or content strategist, not the other way around. Now let's look at the preferred qualifications. They go into details. Ability to read and understand source code written in Java, C++, Python, or JavaScript. Now we are talking about the programming languages. Here, obviously, we are not talking about development experience. This is not a job posting for a developer. You're not supposed to develop in Java, C++, Python, or JavaScript. You're supposed to be able to read through the source code. That's much easier than writing code. Incomparably more easy. The code in Java and C++ is almost similar. The code written in Python is kind of quite standard, and JavaScript is also pretty common. So if you have been working into such an environment, technical environment, one way or another, this should not be a big challenge. Yes, it's a learning curve. Maybe you will have to go through courses on Java, C++, Python, and JavaScript to understand the language, but this is not like Mission Impossible, okay? There are like short versions of courses, books out there which would explain the source code. And once you get the pattern of different programming languages, you can just understand the syntax of all the different languages much easier. Ability to deliver communications and documentation in the format best suited to diverse audiences. Influence and persuade others without direct authority. Remember how we were speaking all the time that technical communicators need to act as customers' advocates. You need to understand your target audience needs, information needs. And if you can explain that you know that you're supposed to ask the users, speak to them, instead of just telling them, oh, this is your documentation, go here, right? And you can demonstrate that with your writing style. That's what they're looking for. Let's take a look at what exactly technical writer is supposed to be doing according to this job posting. Plan, create, maintain educational content as an integral part of engineering or user experience. Okay, that's good. Can you plan for documentation? We've been doing that. We were looking at the patterns in the How to Write Software documentation course about how to approach the content creation process. And I was giving you these slides with the end-to-end process, and we've spent a lot of time discussing why planning is such an important phase. Then the creation means you have to write. How can you demonstrate that you know to write? Show them what are the results from your exercises done in this course or any other courses on technical writing, right? Maintain educational content. That would be the kind of target audience that you have, obviously, as an integral part of the engineering or user experience. Okay, that's good. Content will be in the form of documentation, but may also be UI text, sample code, videos, or educational materials. Absolutely normal. Nowadays, if you think that you can push through as a technical writer only with writing documentation, sorry, that's not realistic, especially in the software development business. You also need to know to create instructional videos. You need to know to read the source code and understand it. So the diverse portfolio is expected and required. You can't just say, I'm super good with text and that's everything I need to know. You need to have much broader range of skills to be like a desired employee for most of the software development companies. Okay, the goal is to explain complex topics in a way that's useful to their audience. Think about simplified English, think about how you can explain something in a simple way. This is what we are talking about. And they then talk about salaries, benefits, nothing interesting for us. Okay, so this was one of the Google's job postings. It did not say too much, but let's take a look at another company and see what they are looking for. Okay, 10 years, 5 to 10 years of experience. Wow, that's a very senior position. Okay. Data structured authoring, content management system, recording of videos, maybe Camtasia, maybe Adobe. Okay, that is not a basic position, so I will move on to the next one. Gamifications. Blizzard Entertainment. Okay, let's look here. This one sounds much more relevant to what we are teaching. First of all, just skimming through the content. Here they talk about Confluence. Overall, the fact that you know how to write in GitHub Wiki means that you already have experience with wiki pages. So Confluence is like a better sophisticated version of wikis that you have used to play around with. Ability to communicate, work independently, so you need to know this lifecycle end-to-end process, okay? They're looking for a person who knows SEO. That's a bit not so much technical writing, but it's about choosing the right terms, terminology, and how to write. Looking here, data, essential aspects to know, data XML. Familiarity with Python, so one specific programming language, and familiarity with Git. How many of you now know Git and GitHub? This is what we were looking at. You don't know it in details, I agree, but you're already familiar with the very basics of using Git and GitHub, and you are familiar with writing in Wiki. So Atlassian Confluence is just another variation of a wiki page, which means that if you have written a portfolio using GitHub and Wiki, you already need several of those criteria here, and such job posting could be relevant for you. Let's look at Cisco then. Take a look at that. 5+ years of defining information architecture, documenting complex technical products. Okay, great. So a lot of experience. And take a look at the last line. Experience with Git and GitHub, Markdown and Confluence. Markdown. Ooh, scary. You go to edit a wiki page and you see the markup, Markdown language. And if you want to really kind of act very smart, you can add that you know Creo, Markdown, MediaWiki, Prot, Textile, you have them all here. Markdown is like the most simple and most popular out there. And if you want to shock all of the people on the interview, you can tell them that you know how to create a table in Markdown language. That should impress everyone on your job interview, because this is the most difficult thing in Markdown. Okay. And Confluence is a better version of this wiki, with also a little bit of versioning control, all the nice features that you don't have to control the table of content, work with the revisions, just like you have here on the GitHub wiki. And you can easily say, I know how to use the wikis from GitHub. Confluence is just like one step further. It's very easy to use it. It's a dedicated tool. Okay, let's see what a technical writer in Barcelona can do. Write and update technical documentation on how to configure OMP, no idea what is this, planning solution for 3 different target audience, colleagues, so internal, partners, and customers. Okay, that sounds fine. You have 3 different target audiences to consider. Keep with our newest product features, which means write documentation as it comes from the development team. Very good. Okay. Growing into a company-wide expert and point of contact. What did I told you? Show them that you are ready to learn. This is what they are asking. Growing into a company-wide expert and point of contact means you have a lot of things to learn about the product, how it works, and just write it down in the documentation. Become the go-to person for these questions. Absolutely normal requirement. But you can't be ready for it until you get hired. I hope that's clear. Knowledge dissemination by sharing best practices with your colleagues and building bridges between different teams. Okay, probably they're going to stuff you into several development teams. Be careful how many teams you agree to be a part of. If being a bridge means you go on all the 5 teams in there, that could be a little bit tough for you. Ownership of documentation projects, proactively align with all relevant stakeholders, of course. Assignments as a technical writer in line with your interests and talents. To me, so far, this sounds like those people have no idea what you are supposed to do, so you kind of start from scratch and have to build your way forward into building their documentation, which is excellent job career, I would say, and should give you plenty of room to kind of grow into this role. You join a dedicated team as a part of the product development organization. Okay, that's good. Training and documentation support and builds. Okay, good. Okay, not a bad offer, I would say, but no idea about what tools and infrastructure they are going to use. So if I was going to apply for this job, I would go for my own writing portfolio and show them how I write documentation. And then you will have like a ton of questions for the interview. Which tools they're imagining to use? What is the frequency of the documentation delivery cycles? How big is the team? Are there opportunities to grow, and what exactly? all of this needs to be clarified because it's not explained here. Maybe they are just starting something from scratch, and you may find it appealing to be in such a position. Now, when I say you go and show them your documentation portfolio, how can this portfolio look like? What you see on the screen, I will show you just a couple of works of my students from previous classes that I teach on technical communications to get an impression of what is this technical writing portfolio that I was talking about. So I collected a couple of decent examples, good, maybe not perfect, maybe good enough, but to get an idea as to how your portfolio may look like. So first of all, if you are going to claim that you know GitHub and Wiki, just send them a link to your GitHub project. Okay, so this link here is what you should put on your resume as here is my portfolio, and you just put the link there. That is essential. When you apply for a job, your application is going to be reviewed by HR people. HR people have absolutely no idea of technical writing. But if you go through this kind of first selection from the HRs, and you have this keyword, this is my portfolio, the next person who is going to look at it is going to be the actual person who hires you, the manager, the technical communication specialist, whatever his or her role is. They will not read almost anything that you have written in your resume. It doesn't matter whether you say, oh, I'm the perfect fit for this company, or I have this or that interest. If you have a portfolio, they are going to look at it. And only if they find it interesting, they may continue reading through your resume. That's what I can bet on. So it's essential that you have that linked somewhere. And when they open it, they should see a nice introduction to your content and should know how to navigate through your documentation. So for this example that I'm showing here, this is the landing page, getting to know one specific product. Its name is product name. That's a real product name, by the way. And here is the table of content. So obviously this person knows how to write a table of content. Okay, good. Let me take a look here. And I can see structured documentation with specific keywords, organized neatly, proper use of bulleted lists and numbered lists. Okay, very well. Images and links. Okay, nice first page for documentation. As you can see, I'm not going to even read that. Let's take a look at the next one. Again, consistent structure, obviously prerequisites with navigation between the content, tables, all of the needed elements are shown here. Now that you kind of grabbed my attention with good information architecture, okay, what was described here? A couple of tasks, how to create teams, how to view teams, okay, reference topics about roles and permissions, nicely representing 3 different target audiences at a glance. Okay, excellent. The topic here starts with an introduction. Okay, shows me what I can expect, what I need to prepare, what are the steps to perform, and what is the result from my work. Excellent. Now I want to speak to this technical writer. Obviously, they know how to write and structure documentation. Let's go to the next portfolio from another student. Slightly different style, a quick start guide with concepts, tasks, and results. What can I immediately see here? Okay, not too many words, which is good because sometimes technical writers forget that too many words is not that good. You should write less and explain more. Images of the content, so visual formatting, I see it quite easily. I can easily skim through this content. And it also looks kind of well and consistent. I can see how this content is structured and organized. It's easy to follow. As you can see, we are talking about just a couple of pages. It's enough to give a first impression to your content. Looking at the third portfolio, a beginner's guide to using the Steam platform, okay? Again, do you realize that this is an existing software and it may have its own documentation? It doesn't matter. The whole point is that here you see example of documentation that you have written. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter that the software exists, that somebody else has written documentation for it. The whole point is that you demonstrate how you write. And if you have never been employed, what exactly can you show? So you just choose your preferred tool, some tool that you know well, and just write about it a couple of pages. And here's what you see. What is Steam? How to add friends, how to search for games. So just a couple of tasks and an introduction topic with a few sentences. Already gives me an impression of your writing style. I will check whether you have typos, what is the kind of language quality, how is it structured and organized. This is what is essential for me to see here. Again, how to add friends, you see prerequisites, steps, nice and neatly organized. Take a look at the screenshots which show you exactly to look at, where to look at. Again, very important. Moving to the next task. Same consistent structure. So this person knows about structured authoring. Excellent. Very visual content. So they remember that it's not about writing, it's about being visual and guiding the end user through the content. The same repeats over the third and the fourth topic, which is going to speak to me, okay, this person can do it consistently. This is what people are looking for in a technical writer as a demonstration of their skills. Okay, good. So that's what I would put if I were to apply for such a job offer. Okay, let's take a look at Payhawk, for example, something similar to the Stripe story that we used as example. Create and maintain help articles for new and existing products features. Okay, that's good. With the goal to reduce support load. Okay, they know why they need a technical writer to reduce the support load. Very good. Manage the process of localization of help articles. Something that obviously everyone here in this master program can handle. Create and maintain glossary of common domain specific terms and expressions, as well as style guide for help articles and product copy. Basically, you will have to define and maintain the terminology database this way. And the style guide. What are the rules for writing in this company for the documentation offering? So pretty standard, straightforward procedure. Localization of new and existing product features. That's great. Okay, candidate speaks natively. That's a lot of language-oriented requirements. Okay, still not many details around the work infrastructure. All of that needs to be asked during an interview. Now, this one looks much closer to what we have been studying here, the API documentation writing. 2 years as technical writer or other technical position. This means, they just seek a person who knows how to write that. If I did not have 2 years of work experience as a technical writer, but I had a portfolio written down, I would still go ahead and apply. Okay, so don't be scared by these at least 2 years of experience. They just want a person who is serious about the job and is not wondering, should I be or not a technical writer? Writing, production, and technical editing skills. That's clear. Excellent communications, bachelor degree, computer science or relevant. Okay. Attention to detail, portfolio of work and or writing samples. They directly ask you for that. So that's a good signal. Usually if nobody asks you for a portfolio, then they don't know exactly what they want. Familiarity with API documentation for net APIs. Now you can be familiar with API documentation, and now with the framework I have given you, you should be just fine, in general API documentation. Now, for net APIs, you have to do a research. What exactly are those net APIs? And what do they mean here? I don't know this abbreviation or term. What exactly do they mean? But if you know how to write API documentation, that's okay. Okay? Code samples to better understand the need of the API consumers. That's clear. You can tell them if there is a developer to work with me on that. Of course, we can embed that and provide in the documentation. Let's scroll down to see something interesting. Work with Jira, nothing difficult. Documentation for different audiences, different levels of technical skills. That's good. Agile and Scrum development teams. Take a look at that. Experience creating infographics, diagrams, screenshots, workflows, and graphics. Again, something I've been covering in the How to Write Software Documentation course, how important this is, and this should be a part of your portfolio. Okay. Creating infographics to communicate workflow processes and abstract topics more clearly. Be visual. Remember that in everything you do. Okay, good. But basically, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. The skills you have with the Markdown, with Git and GitHub, is exactly what many of the companies are going to ask for. Take a look at this next job posting. Senior technical writer is what they're looking for. Take a look at the job description. Empathize with your audience and anticipate user needs. Everything we talked about, how you write for a specific audience, address their needs, how you are going to do end-user research, and then collect feedback using card sorting techniques. This is part of the big story. This is what you should tell them that you're aware. Iterate and collaborate, draft, ask, test, fail, and improve. Remember the life cycle that I gave you for writing documentation? This is what they ask for. Do you know it? Do you kind of leave it in your documentation? Follow your curiosity to learn more about technology and how people consume it. User research, latest technologies, learning on the job. This is what you need to demonstrate. Understand that your audience doesn't read help docs as bedtime stories. I love the person who wrote this posting. I have the feeling as if I have written it, because this is what I've been trying also to explain, that our documentation is not meant for reading. It is meant to solve problems, and it's written in a different way. Okay, self-edit and maintain high standards. That's part of the process, of course. Juggle a few things at a time, of course. Lead by example, sure. 3 to 6 plus years of experience. Okay, requirements. Now question, what do you do if you have less than 3 years of experience or 20 plus years of experience? Then obviously they don't want you to work there, right? Still apply. If that job posting is interesting, still apply. Ignore this kind of vague motivations that they have put. But what I was trying to show you is actually here. API, REST, written incorrectly, of course, you should tell them that. Postman as the tool that they want for testing. Then Git and GitHub, the things that we use to write our documentation. And understanding of everything else. These are different technologies, different concepts and terminology, XML, data, and structured writing. I think you already have that covered in your program. Understanding of the programming languages, these are all nice to have, of course. Regular expressions, okay, excellent. SEO. These are all good things to know and all things that you have experienced and we have covered here. And the last one that I want to show you here, now capital one, experience writing REST API documentation for technical and non-technical audiences. Writing samples will be requested. You need to have them ready, exactly like I told you. Experience with REST and RESTful conventions. Now you should know what's the terminology and should not be scared by the terms REST and RESTful. Knowledge of JSON and YAML. Remember what we were doing in the Swagger UI, where you were actually looking at the YAML XML, at the YAML code, when we were not using the user interface of the Swagger UI. That was the YAML. And the responses, the requests and responses were JSON formatted with so many examples there. So you already have knowledge of JSON and YAML. Maybe you don't have development knowledge, but you can understand it and you can read it. Same here. Read and understand source code. They don't even tell you for which programming language. So you need to ask. But in general, nobody expects you to be a developer, just to understand the basic syntax on specific languages. And of course, multitasking, which means you will go onto several teams. Like I told you, the usual ratio is 1 to 3. One technical writer works with 3 software development teams. Very often that's the case. Now let's take a look here. Experience crafting and maintaining example code in languages like CRL, Python, Go, and Node.js. These are the languages that I told you you should ask what exactly are you going to read. These are the languages. If you really like this company, you go to on the internet and you search for some short courses on any of those languages to get an impression of their syntax. This is how you can get prepared for this part of the interview. What do you know about those languages? If you take 1 hour long course here, you need 4 hours to prepare. Not impossible, right? Experience writing and publishing in Madcap Flare or similar tools. That's good. It's just one of the writing environments out there, pretty popular. Nothing special, I would say. You can say I have experience with GitHub wikis, wiki pages. Madcap Flare is just dedicated tool for authoring, easy to learn, nothing difficult. Have experience working with OpenAPI Swagger UI. Exactly what we did here in this course. This means that in this company, the setup is that you become a part of the development team. They give you access to the API itself. And via Swagger UI, you just directly help them with the documentation over the API. This is what this sentence would stand for. And then the second sentence that should reveal the second part of our course, ability to use HTTP clients like Postman to research and test the API queries. So the Swagger UI, the reason why I showed you Swagger was because in some companies, you work with the developers on the API directly. That's what you do with Swagger UI. You're not decoupled from the API completely. You have to use the Swagger UI to provide the documentation directly in there. But Swagger was not very handy to understand how the API works and playing around with. For that reason, you use Postman to research and test the API queries to see what will happen if I run this query or another query, how the request and the response will look like. This is what we did in the second part of our course. But both are with slightly different purpose. Strictly speaking, if you look at Swagger and Postman, both of them claim kind of the same thing. Swagger UI says it's about creating APIs and documenting them, but it's easier to just document them there. While Postman says it's for using APIs and documenting them, but it's easier to test them and not that easy to document them in Postman. And usually people use both of those tools with slightly different purpose. And this JSON and YAML, the YAML, you see it here, and the JSON, you need it to understand what you're writing about the request and the response in both of these tools. Okay, I hope that clarifies why I forced you to go through the two different tools, because they are slightly different ideas and intentions. And this one here is a pretty standard setup for many of the companies. I did not find that explicitly written down in many of the other job postings we looked at, but here it's crystal clear. They have written it down directly. And if you go to a company which has not written it down explicitly, and you can say, I have experience working with OpenAPI Swagger UI, and you know that's the name of the first two, and I know how to use the Postman to reach out and test APIs, they would know what you're talking about. Maybe they don't use exactly Swagger UI or Postman, but one of the many other tools out there, that they would know the most popular ones, and it would not be a big change for you to learn another tool. Okay? So that should kind of encourage you to apply also for such job postings. 5+ years of technical writing experience, that's, you know, they're taking a shot here. What exactly do they expect? First of all, 3 years of writing experience for REST APIs, then suddenly it's 5+ years of technical writing experience. Question is what you were doing in the remaining 2+ years. You know, you were not writing API documentation for, I don't know. Sometimes they just would put things that are like wishful thinking, because they assume a person with that high experience would have more skills, knowledge. I don't know. But if you have somebody who has little experience but willingness to learn, then you have still high chances. And if you impress them with your portfolio, where you show what you have written with Swagger UI and you tell them about the Postman and demonstrate what you can do there, then you have very high chances. This should kind of tell you what you are supposed to show in your portfolio. Now, if you have to go and apply, you may have your own criteria how to choose what to apply for, right? Maybe it's a company that you prefer. Maybe it's a location that you prefer. But be prepared with your questions around the job posting. Some of the job postings you will find are not well written, and you need to kind of know what to ask. Like which tools are they going to use, how many teams you are supposed to be working with, one thing that I usually don't like when I see a job posting which in one single job for a technical writer, they combine together everything that they could have ever thought of as a qualification. And they want a writer who is an editor and a software developer who delivers online training courses and produces videos and is also writing marketing materials. Sorry, but these are 6 different job offers, not one. And of course, they usually give you the lowest possible pay, right? So be careful about job offers where they don't provide too many details. Be interested in the tools and the infrastructure they use because it matters, so that you kind of find your way to the desired job. If they want you to do everything, that usually means that they have no idea as to what are you really supposed to do, because you can't deliver on the entire spectrum and be efficient. You're either writing or creating videos and so on and so forth. So you need to be kind of very focused in your job.